Hi everyone, it's Mrs. Caskey, and I'm back in front of my fireplace and getting ready to do another read aloud. And this time I thought I would, we've read a couple books about being grumpy, and so I thought this time I would read a book about giving a hug. And so this one is called Nobody Hugs a Cactus. It's written by Carter Goodrich. And this book's a little bit different than the other books that I've written. You know how I've talked about the front cover and back cover being a full picture? Well, this isn't quite a full picture. It's two separate pictures, but there's some really nice artwork on here. So, okay, let's get started. Nobody Hugs a Cactus by Carter Goodrich. There's some nice illustrations there. This is a little impressionistic. There's not a lot of detail to the pictures. All right, Hank lived in a pot. The pot sat in a window. The window looked out at the empty desert. It was hot, dry, peaceful, and quiet, just the way Hank liked it. I would guess that this is Hank. But every now and then, somebody would interrupt Hank's peace and quiet. "Hi, Hank," Rosie the tumbleweed called out. "Isn't it a beautiful day?" Hank ignored her. He just wanted to be left alone. Now, I want to get a close-up of Hank. Remember that thing I was talking about, that theme of being grumpy? Well, I think Hank's a little grumpy. "Okay, so long," said Rosie cheerfully as she tumbled away, and Hank was happy again. But just as he was beginning to relax, "Hello!" shouted Tortoise. "Private property!" yelled Hank. "Keep out!" Do you think he wants anybody to come around? This is Hank in his little window there. The tortoise was so frightened that he hid in his shell. Hank was still yelling at the tortoise when a jackrabbit dashed by. "Hiya, Prickles!" she shouted. "My name isn't Prickles," Hank yelled back, "and stay out of my yard." Tumbleweeds, tortoises, jackrabbits, what's next? Hank looks quite upset. A coyote came loping by. "No dogs allowed!" Hank yelled. "I'm not a dog," said the coyote, "and you are prickly on the inside as you are on the outside." Ooh. I wonder what the coyote is talking about when he says you're as prickly on the inside as you are on the outside. Before Hank could yell back at the coyote, a cowboy strode past. "Keep off the grass!" yelled Hank. "What grass?" said the cowboy. "Seems to me somebody needs a hug. Too bad nobody hugs a cactus." "Hi," said Lizard. "Who invited you?" asked Hank. "And just in case you're wondering, I don't want a hug." "That's good," said the lizard, "because I don't want to give you one." And then he skittered away. I'm kind of feeling a little sorry for Hank. Night came and Owl landed on the roof. "If you're looking for a hug," said Hank, "well, I guess I could give you one." Do you think that the owl is going to hug Hank the cactus? "Ooh, me?" said the owl. "You must be joking." And for the first time, Hank began to feel a little lonely. The next morning, Hank was feeling more sad on the inside than prickly. Maybe a hug wouldn't be so bad after all. The wind began to pick up. An old cup blew by and stuck to Hank's face. His arms were too short to get it off. Great, said Hank. After a while, Rosie came bouncing by. "I'll get it off you, Hank," she shouted, and she jumped up to knock the cup off of Hank's face, and then she tumbled away. My microphone wants to move on me. Sorry. Hank didn't have time to thank Rosie. He felt bad about all the other times he'd been so rude to her, so he came up with a plan. Hank decided to grow the best flower he could and then give it to Rosie as a thank you gift. It took days, but at last it was ready. He couldn't wait for Rosie to pass by again. There's Hank, and he grew a flower. When at last she finally came bouncing back, Hank held out the flower. "Look, Rosie," he said, "I grew it just for you." Rosie was so surprised she jumped up and gave Hank a great big hug. It felt so nice, Hank didn't want to let go. And as things turned out, he couldn't. Rosie and Hank had become stuck together. But they didn't care. After all, it's better to be stuck in a hug than stuck all alone. And there's Rosie and Hank stuck, quote unquote, stuck in their hug. That's the end of that story. So I think the point of this story is sometimes people feel a little like Grumpy Monkey did, and sometimes they don't know that they want a hug, or they don't even realize that they want a hug until maybe something happens to make them feel sad, and then that's the time they need a hug. But sometimes people say they don't want a hug, and they actually do. So you just don't know, do you? I think it's nice that Cactus and Rosie got to hug each other, and I bet they became friends. All right, so that's it for Nobody Hugs a Cactus. I hope you enjoyed that story, and until next time, keep reading.